Welcome to the Evolved Leadership Podcast, where we speak to business owners and executives who make the world a better place. You'll hear experienced and successful leaders share powerful stories and insights that will help you evolve as a leader in your own journey. Hi guys, welcome to the show. Today it's my great pleasure to have Ben Nash on the show from Pivot Wealth. Ben is a financial advisor and the founder of Pivot Wealth. He helps people invest smarter so they can create a life not limited by money. He has a focus on helping people make smart money decisions so they can live the lifestyle they want today while they set up their future. Ben, welcome to the show.
Oh, it's good to be here, Dave.
It's a great pleasure to have you. Let's kick right off. Can you tell us a bit about your leadership journey so far?
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, I started Pivot in 2015. So we're coming up to our 7th birthday this year. I never really wanted to start a business. I'm not one of these like entrepreneurs. I just love what I was doing. As a financial advisor, I'd worked for quite a big business. Then I went and worked at a smaller company, and I was looking to become a partner in that business. And I realized, after getting quite a way down the path, that there was a bit of a values misalignment there. And at that point, made the decision that I needed to move on. And I really just didn't want to work for anyone else. So I thought, and there were a few things that I thought I could do a little bit, differently, or that I was keen to do a little bit differently that I didn't have the power to do when I was an employee of other companies. So I started the business, and so I started the business from scratch. I just worked myself in the business for the first year. Then I brought my now wife into the business, and we worked together for 2.5 years, just the two of us. And I was actually really reluctant to bring any team into the business. I saw that as something that was an obligation and would restrict me in terms of what I was doing or how I was working. And there was probably a few limiting beliefs in there about, getting great people and having those sorts of things, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about. But look, I always did have that thought in the back of my mind, especially as we started building a bit of traction in the business, that in not being a leader and not having a team, that it meant that we weren't able to have the same impact that we could as a business perspective, weren't able to work. Like, there's only so many people that I personally work with. And therefore, there's only so many people that we can impact. So I did have that thought, and then was in a coaching forum with our business coach at the time, still our business coach actually, and got challenged on some of those beliefs with some of the people there. At the same time, my wife and I were planning on about to get married and wanted to start a family, and I sort of realized that it was the business at this point was starting to build some serious traction. I was working really long hours, and I realized that it was probably unsustainable for me to be able to do what I wanted to be doing, as a husband and a father, and still then have the business. So we started building out the team at that point. It's definitely a skill that you need to learn, and it's been quite a journey since then. I suppose that was in 2019 or thereabouts, at the start when we brought in our first team member. And, we've now got 21 people in the team as of today. So, it's been a lot of lessons on the way, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about, but
Well, let's dive right in. And you said you weren't sort of naturally entrepreneurial, but yet here you are, an entrepreneur. Because you are running a business. You have grown a team, and that's a really impressive achievement. And not only that, but it's a business that is really about helping people. Which is the focus of this podcast, is to talk to business owners and executives who make the world a better place in some way. So I want to ask a few more questions about how that shift was moving from just you and one other to actually having a team. But firstly, I want to ask more about what is the purpose of Pivot Wealth? Why did you set it up? What is its mission? Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, look, ultimately, what we do is we empower people. It's all about empowerment and empowering people to live the lives that they want. Really, we help people get more money, but we know that the people that we help, that it's not money so that they've got a bigger pile of money. It's money for the lifestyle that it gives them, for the choices that it gives them around their work, their career, the impact that they have, the personal lives they live, what they do within their families and communities as well. So while it is, yes, we help people invest smarter, it's more for, how do we set up the lifestyle that you want? So I say that our purpose for our clients is to help them create a life that's not limited by money, which you mentioned in the intro. But yeah, ultimately the organization's purpose is we empower people to have the impact that they want in the world.
Fantastic. And how's that going? Like, what are the results that you're seeing?
Well, look, it's been great. The focus that we have as a financial planning business, it probably sounds a little bit silly to say this, but we focus everything around actually getting results. And I think as financial planners, and I know that I've certainly fallen into this in the past, is that you can sometimes get super excited doing these financial plans. And I think financial plans are great. Like, it's great to have a great plan, but we know that the plan is only really a tool to help people get the outcomes and the results that they want. So when we're working with people, because we know that there's going to be a dual accountability on helping them get the outcomes that they wanted, it means that it puts a different lens over how you actually help people with their planning. And yeah, look, I think it's probably less common than it should be, in my opinion, but it does definitely work. And we, since 2015, we've had, we're probably coming up to maybe 1,000 people go through the planning process. We've been fortunate to have the work that we've done recognized in, by various sort of awards and excellence in education and influence in the advice community. I'm thankful to be part of the XY Advisor community, which is a community that I co-founded with a handful of advisor mates back in 2014, I think it was, and learn a lot from that as well. But I think that's allowed us to really push the dial in terms of how we have the biggest impact for people and help them have the biggest impact for themselves. We do really track everything, because we are so focused on results, that it is really important for us, and I think flows through to our clients, for them to get an objective assessment of going, they've got a great plan and they're super excited about that plan, but then what actually happened and how close were we? So I was just looking at the numbers from the last 12 months, and we know that the average upside for the clients we worked with was $71,203. So I think with that, and then
can you explain what that means to the
essentially,
layperson?
one of the ways that we measure the impact of the work that we do with our clients is we look at what they were doing when they came to see us, and then what they ended up doing as a result of going through the planning process, and we track the difference in those outcomes. Then we separately track the actual dollars. So what are the dollar outcomes that they get over the year and those sorts of things. But that variance is $71,000. And then I was actually just putting some content together the other day and looking at, well, if you invest $71,000 today, what does that mean over time? And it extrapolates out to, I think it was like $988,000 if you got $71,000 invested into the share market average today, and just let that bubble away for the next 30 years. So that shows the
Yep.
opportunity, but it also shows the cost of people not taking action, because so many people, they think they're doing what they should be doing or they're doing okay. But because money's so confusing, you end up in this sort of stuck type position where you know you should be doing something, but there's so much noise, you don't want to make a mistake, you don't know what the right balance is. So you end up just keeping doing what you've been doing in the past. But what those numbers show me is that you're costing yourself almost $1 million every year by not taking action, because it's not just the $71,000 that you're missing out on, it's what that would actually do for you in the years to come as well. So I'm really proud of the fact that we have that impact with clients. I'm really excited for our clients that they get to do, like get those results, so that then they can create more options for themselves, because the people we work with, they're up to some pretty cool stuff. Like they're probably a reflective of the people we work with, but we work with a lot of people that are working in technology, really smart people. They're, you know, when they're financially secure, it means that then they can choose to work with companies that they really believe in that company's purpose and help further that purpose, as opposed to thinking or feeling like, or actually needing to work in a job that's going to give them more of an income because, you know, they've got a certain lifestyle that they need to maintain. And I get really excited by that. I think it's a real privilege to be able to be part of that journey for the people we work with.
That's really cool, and thank you for explaining so clearly, you know, how you help people. What an awesome business! So, you talked about results, and you've given some numbers, you know, and that, you know, that's a huge, bit of support if you're talking about, you know, $70-something thousand, you know, that you essentially help people to create. You know, then as you say, if you invested just that, you know, in average returns on the stock market and left it there for 30 years, there'd be almost $1 million after that. So that's a really awesome impact. I know that you without sharing your secret technologies, you know, can you share a little bit about, you know, how do you actually help people to achieve that?
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I think ultimately that good financial planning and good money management, and not necessarily financial planning with a financial planner, but just good money strategy for any person, it's really just about good prioritization. So every different pathway that you have with your money has benefits attached to it, and it has risks and downsides attached to it. You know, investing in shares has different benefits, it has different risks. Property is the same, crypto is the same, business is the same. Doing nothing has risks attached to it as well. So what we really do is we empower people to make the best decisions for them by really understanding the different options that are in front of them and then making an informed choice. So it sounds quite simple, but when people, they tend to not take action when they're afraid of making a mistake. And I think that fear is very much warranted. Like, you don't want to do something silly, but at the same time, risk is what makes you money. Like, if you don't do anything, then you're not going to get any results. So part of what we do is saying, okay, well, what's possible, and how can we, you know, buy that investment property in a way that you are 100% comfortable to, that all of your risks are managed, and you can then pull the trigger and do that sooner, so you start getting results sooner. I find that that's a really big part of what we do. Look, there are definitely things tax is a big area as well. Like in Australia, we pay a lot of tax. There's a lot of opportunity to be strategic around tax. As a salaried employee, it is somewhat limited what you can do with deductions around your income. However, there's a huge opportunity that most people miss around being tax smart when they invest. And whether you, for example, invest in Australian shares that come with franked dividends and tax credits attached to them, or international shares that don't, or, you know, whose name you invest in if you're in a couple, or whether you invest through a trust or company structure as an individual, or how your business is structured, how you stream your income, dividends, and all of those sorts of things, that has an enormous impact on the end results that you get. And most people are so focused on just looking at their headline returns, but really the only real important number is how much are you actually left with after you pay with the ATO. So that's the thing that we focus on, and we find that a lot comes from there as well.
Yeah, that's really, really smart, and great to hear that you actually get in there with people and discuss how to be strategic in terms of tax, because it is a large amount that people pay in Australia, and it's smart to be strategic and know what you are entitled to, and how you can actually minimise your tax within the framework of how things operate in Australia.
Sorry, I was just going to say that for business owners in particular, we speak to so many people that have their entity structures set up in a way that is suboptimal from a tax perspective, and that is often tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in terms of getting it exactly right. It is really complicated, so it's hard if you're not, even for us as financial planners, we need to work closely with accountants and detailed tax specialists to get into the nitty-gritty. But given that I know that you've got a lot of business owners listening in, that I would say that making sure you've got awesome help around that from someone that actually knows what to look out for will often pay huge dividends.
Exactly. So, Ben, we've talked about your organisational mission and purpose, and a bit about how you actually achieve some of the results that you do for your clients. In the time that we've got, which is not a lot, I also want to ask about leadership, because this podcast focuses on the evolved leader, a leader that helps make the world a better place. One of the challenges you've mentioned so far is the shift from being, essentially you and someone else to then growing a team, and that resistance, but then, your business coach at the time actually challenging you to, to move forward and bring on the right people to help your organisation grow and scale its impact. What were some of your biggest insights that might be useful for business owners listening around, that shift you made, and what the biggest lessons were for you that you can share for the benefit of other business owners who might be at that point or on the journey at the moment?
Sure. Look, I think that really the keys are, and it's going to sound simple to say, but it's finding good people, onboarding them well into the business, and then keeping them aligned and performing at the level that you want. I think everybody understands that that's broadly what needs to happen, but the devil is in the detail with this. And I think all of those different elements that I've just mentioned are quite complicated and really need to be tailored to a business and to the individuals within the business in order to get there. So we've learned so much around hiring people and, how we screen people to set them up for, making sure that they're going to be able to deliver to the role, that they're the right fit for the business. We were fortunate when we were early on in the journey. In some cases, we got lucky. In other cases, we didn't, and we brought people into the business that just wasn't quite the right fit. And I think that's never good for anyone. It's not good for the business. It's not good for the leaders in the business. It's not good for the team members in the business either, or for the clients either. So we now have fairly rigorous recruiting and screening using, testing across different dimensions. I was fortunate to have a good friend of mine who's an organizational psychologist, and he helped us to unpack the key attributes and competencies that we felt were necessary for success in the role. And we now screen for those in throughout the recruiting and hiring process. And I think we're now got a much stronger business muscle around how we hire and who we hire. Again, it's not perfect, because I think that that on its own is not enough, that you need to then onboard people well into the business, help them really understand there's always a lot of things to learn in a new role, but what are the most important priorities? How do you achieve those? How do we review those over time? And where do people need to be at certain timelines when they're new into the business? Recently started using the 90-day onboarding plans, which is from the book The First 90 Days. Fantastic read, and got a lot of good tips in there to make it crystal clear to people, what they need, where they need to get to by when, and what they need to do to get there. And then I think it's about ongoing performance management, but positive performance management in saying, okay, well, what is success in every role? And we've now unpacked that to say, okay, for a relationship manager role, there's certain things that need to be achieved. For a financial advisor role, there's certain things that need to be achieved. For our implementation manager, basically every role within the business, that we say, okay, well, these are the things that we need you to hit. We need you to be, hitting your SLAs for certain tasks. You need to be taking an active role with junior team members in getting them up to speed and providing constructive feedback around development opportunities. We need to be hitting certain net promoter score benchmarks across the business and for the individuals within the business as well. And sort of like the way that we support clients in saying, okay, well, we're results focused, we need outcomes. Like every person is in our business to deliver certain outcomes. So let's get really clear on what those outcomes are, and then let's have a rolling, ongoing conversation around that so that we can easily address issues before they turn into problems, so that we can celebrate success as it comes through, and so that we can reward people when they're kicking butt in their jobs.
Yeah. Well, what you've just said, is really, really healthy and very mature. And I find much of my work with business owners and senior leaders of large organizations involves either highlighting the fact that there's not that regular conversation going on, there's not that clarity, around helping people to co-develop outcomes that they, are actually meaningful to them and meaningful to the business, to then hold at the forefront of their work, and, as you say, check in on regularly, and reward people around when they're achieved. And what that is a coaching conversation. It's something I'm personally very passionate about as a coach, is seeing a coaching approach take root in organisations where the leaders do coach people regularly around the outcomes that they agree on. So that's awesome to hear that you guys do that. Usually I come into organisations and I find that it's not there, and then I help them implement it. But it's of all the different solutions out there to help businesses, improve what they do, I've found that's number one, is having that regular coaching conversation, having agreed on outcomes together. So well done. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds very simple, but it's one of those things, I think, with team and leadership, that there's always plenty going on within a business, and it's easy to think of a meeting or a one-on-one session with the team member as something that can just get pushed because there's always something else to do. But it's like with your money, I think it relates in a lot of ways, that money is something that you can ignore today, or you can ignore tomorrow, or probably for this month, without causing yourself too much trouble. But if you do that week on week and month on month, then it leads to serious problems. It's the same with team. People get misaligned. They don't have clarity. They're not as focused on the organizational performance. They're not as motivated to keep going. So I think that, like I say, simple, but that ongoing focus is a big one.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So Ben, what are the next steps for you in your own leadership journey?
Well, it's an ongoing process, I think, around those different elements that I've mentioned, and we are still learning. We're still in the process of recruiting for a couple of roles at the moment, and I think every time someone goes through the process, we learn something and change our approach slightly, or refine our approach slightly. And I think we've recently launched the ongoing 360-degree feedback within the team around those competencies and the ongoing performance reviews that I've mentioned. So this coming 6-month period is going to be about getting that data in, getting some feedback, and seeing what we can do to refine and improve what we're doing. At the same time, I'm fortunate through our business coach, the same one that I mentioned before, that they're doing a lot of things around team and leadership, some emotional intelligence training, which I've just gone through as part of that group, which is helpful around, how we can work better within teams. And it's given me a few areas that I should be focused on for development. And I think, just keeping that ongoing focus to ensure that we're continuing that momentum and building on what we've set as the foundation.
That's really great. And I'm glad you've mentioned emotional intelligence. I don't think yet on the podcast, that term has come up. It's actually one of the core qualities of the evolved leader that we talk about here. In terms of the evolved leadership vision. And Daniel Goleman put emotional intelligence on the map with his with his work, and that term really came out of the articles and the research that he produced. As well as the 6 styles of leadership, where the coaching style of leadership is the last and I believe the most important. So you're really on the money with the right things you need to be working on, cultivating emotional intelligence as a leader, and implementing a coaching culture in your organisation. So again, that's really cool. And we are almost at time. So I want to ask, is there anything else, for listeners, and whether you're a business owner listening or or a senior leader of an organisation, what do you have to share, Ben, from your rich journey so far in the world of business leadership that would be useful for listeners?
Well, look, I think that one of the things that I've learned is that there's probably no one ideal way to get this stuff right, as you would well know from all of the people that you talk to, that I've found that for us, that drawing on elements of different frameworks and structures and techniques and finding what works for us, our team, our business, for me personally, as well as a leader in the business, has helped us to create something that has delivers the outcomes that we want. I think it's a mistake to fall into thinking that you can just pick up a framework and run with it and it's going to give you the ideal outcomes from day one. But I have found that, pulling in the elements, as I mentioned, has meant that we could pick and choose the best of different models, and then the team gives you the feedback, or we say the market gives you the feedback as a business owner, that sometimes you've just got to get started and it's not going to be perfect, but know that it's a journey. Let the team know that it's a journey, and hey, we're going to do something. The reason we're doing it is because of these things. This is what we're hoping to achieve. Let's hope that we can actually get there. But tell us what you think, how it works, what your suggestions are for improvement. And then that way everybody is on the bus and behind that journey, as opposed to thinking that we're just dictating some new structures for the sake of doing it. I've found that to be particularly helpful for us and our team.
Yes. Really great point to finish on, and thank you so much. So we're at time. For listeners who'd like to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, the best way is probably jump onto the Pivot Wealth website. You can find out more about what we do, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn under Ben Nash. We can put a link up in the show notes for people as well. Awesome.
Ben, thank you so much for your time today. That was a really, really cool interview, and hearing your experience, and I know listeners will get a lot of benefit hearing the value that you shared. Thank you so much.
Oh, good to be here, David. Thanks.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about how you can evolve as a leader, go to mcdermottcoaching.com.au and enjoy our wide range of articles and resources, as well as our other great podcast episodes.